Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. You like that? I just go, welcome to another. Kelly, welcome to my show.
Very nice to be here. How are you doing today?
I'm excited in so many ways because you know why I found you through UFO Twitter. And you, how did you get into the UFO stuff? Like, because it seems like the whole world has kind of like jumped off the kick of UFOs.
Right. So for me, and I think anyone that's on UFO Twitter can contest that when I was a little girl and Unsolved Mysteries, this is way back in the day, would come on and that music, and then they would show the aliens, and I couldn't sleep. And I was like, for sure, there was an alien at the end of my bed. So my whole entire child and adolescent, and even into my adulthood, scared of the dark. And I'm always scared to see the alien with the eyes. Like that is, it rocks me to my core. There's something about that. And I don't know, maybe we're deep seated knowing that it's true, but there's something about that image that just really rocks you. So moving ahead, I never really got onto Twitter, never really thought about UFOs, could finally sleep in the dark. And about a year ago, I popped onto Twitter because I'm like, what's this? What's this thing everyone keeps talking about? And obviously you get tired of Facebook and Instagram, and it's just like a series of, I don't know, just the same stuff. So I went on Twitter and I stumbled over just a couple of UFO tweets, and all of a sudden I started following and reading and then watching documentaries, and it kind of ignited that whole spark, but fear again, like, yeah, I think something is out there. And you just kind of go down the rabbit hole and you're like, no way. And then you find something else and you're like, there's a connection. And the more you dig, and then it just, there's too many coincidences. There's too many stories. There's too many people saying the same thing. Some of it is a little bit too much that I can't wrap my head around, but you know, the foundation of it is there's absolutely something that is going on and I can't let go of it. So that's pretty much where I am. So I'm always on, if when I'm not working, kind of like scrolling through, reading what I can, but it can get a little bit daunting. So that's just what brought me here today, is just learn more, talk to people, because you definitely can't just go up to, you know, your friends or girlfriends, be like, hey, so what about that UAP stuff? Did you hear about the report? They're like, what? Girl, we're going shopping. So you know, I'm by myself.
It's surprisingly, I think everyone has an interest in what's out there, but a lot of people, I mean, I get it, because it is hard to even get out of your own head sometimes, of like the thing that's on everybody's mind is the struggle that they're going through right now. So worrying about aliens isn't really a concept for a lot of it. But like social media, I don't think anybody predicted the fact that it was eventually going to be a news source. Like TikTok has turned into a news source. Everything right now is amidst the pandemic. And I was like, this is kind of the hopeful thing, is that we have this UFO topic that's a very interesting one to get into, rather than worry about vaccines killing people or doing whatever you want to talk about that you can see on Twitter. It's a whole mishmash of things. And I'm like, we wanted to storm Area 51, what, 2 years ago in September? It was this giant thing. And then
That
what
was
happened with
hilarious.
that? Yeah. And I'm like, did the dying off of just UFOs around the community and the world just kind of branch off? But I've met some people that are like intelligent and astrophysicists that talk about like there's 1,700 articles that were released in Australia, but then we only got like 9. And I'm like, why are you? It's like I'm doing a 9/11 episode since that number's coming up. And I'm
Yes.
looking at the commission report, and there's so much of it where I'm like, what are you hiding? There's a lot that's like blanked out. And there's a lot of stuff like Bush didn't want the commission report to even happen. He rejected the funding. Then he rejected the extra 60 days to look into it even more. And I'm like, what are you like doing?
And you're talking about the 9/11 report.
Yes.
So maybe I'm just conspiracy theories, but before I got jumped into UFO Twitter, I was obsessed and going down YouTube, seeing, you know, the Fahrenheit 9/11 and watching the live channels and the feeds. And who's that one radio announcer, big tall guy, curly hair? He was documenting it as soon as it was happening. Tall guy. His name evades me.
I don't know the names. I just know the sounds they make.
Exactly, but he was online. He was on online. Oh my goodness, it wasn't on the radio when it was happening back then. Do you remember where you were when that happened?
I was 4 years old. So
Holy crap. Okay, so it was my first year in college. That's hilarious. It was my first year in college. I was taking television broadcasting up north in Thunder Bay, Ontario, in
I
Canada,
got you.
and and yeah, everybody stopped and went into the rec room or the big lunch room, and we had the TVs, the tube TVs with the big backs on them hanging in the corners of the lunchroom, and everyone was just glued to it. And I remember it was wild. I remember that it was absolutely wild. The entire world stopped that day, and then when you start going into the nitty gritty of everybody who knew and all the other towers that fell, and it's just hard to wrap your head around it.
Well, the main point of that was like when I was using that as an example was the fact that they hide a lot of stuff. Like that's been known throughout our history in government projects. Things get decommissioned 50 years later and stuff like that. But in 10 years ago, nobody would have even thought about the aspect of the government saying they're going to release unidentified aerial phenomena. I remember talking about this when I was first podcasting like 2.5 years ago. I was on a guy's show and he invited me on to talk about all these dots and these tic tac things. This was when that first came out, when it was even first heard of. And it was like I wasn't super into it, but through the more people I've talked to, I've heard
Wow.
similar accounts of seeing lights in the sky in like the form of a triangle where it seems like they've conquered like a two-dimensional type bend to what their ship would be. And I'm looking at it like movies, for instance, they show you multiple different things of what aliens are going to be, from the Alien movie to like whatever you want to say, the little green men. But I look at it like maybe they're conditioning you to the fact of if we ever do come across something, we might be able to handle it more. I mean, what particularly got your interest into this topic in the first place?
So when just to touch on what you were saying before about the conditioning through media, remember when Tom DeLonge saying like there's a whole 7-step program or 7 steps of like full disclosure,
Yeah.
or getting the public ready about that? And he was saying that they do it, and he will be doing it as well. I think another movie's coming out that he's doing, and it's kind of conditioning us, as you may, of kind of getting us ready. And then the new one that's coming out on Showtime, and at the very end of that trailer, it's like something's coming. Get ready. Are they trying to groom us to get ready? Because the and is it really going to happen, or is it 10 years from now, 15 years from now? I don't see this happening right now, but definitely got way too obsessed over it when Jeremy Corbell dropped his first video.
Yeah.
When that all came out, I was like, that's it, I'm done. I need to find another hobby. But you get too wrapped up into it. Like sometimes, and I don't know, people or your viewers might think I'm absolutely nuts, but I'll be literally driving my car, and then I think, how stupid, or I have to go pump gas, and I'm like, how freaking stupid is this? They have these anti-gravity propulsion systems
Yeah.
going up. People know about all this technology, and I'm putting gas in my car and I'm paying, $1.30 per liter for it. I don't friggin' think so. So
Well, the main
it's
logical point I give is that when it comes to anything where you don't get the full information on, it's like I understand the aspect of hiding it from a government standpoint. Some people probably can't handle knowing UFOs exist. I mean, there's some people out there that would just drive their car off a cliff or something, thinking that, oh my God, there's another fear out there. But there's some people that do want to know. And when it comes to the aspect of like Element 115 with Robert or Bob Lazar, who was, working with those in his whole thing about Sector 7 or whatever it was called. I touched upon this way long ago, so I'm just coming back from my memory on it. But to think that, like, when I look at these videos, for instance, I obviously they're going to hold some information back, but I would prefer that they be open with it so it doesn't lead into these rooms of you see so many conspiracies, and the alien thing is now getting chalked up into the conspiracy aspect of things. And I'm like, it's not really a conspiracy to think that we're the only ones. Now, when I see these videos of these things flying and doing complete 180s and going straight up into the sky, nothing that we ever have technology for, maybe it's a drone. I'm more likely on the possibility it's a drone, but at the same time, I'm not going to say that there's nothing out there. We
correct.
only base intelligence or life off of things that are similar to what we consider life, our own life. Plants have these types of way of communicating through their roots to change their color or their flavor of their leaves, so bugs don't eat them. We only
Mhm.
base our intelligence system off of what's cognizant for animals because it's close to what our intelligence is like, not plant intelligence, and also not what an extraterrestrial being might breathe off of or live off of. So that is like the main point, is like if you're hiding something, then you know that there's probably a possibility it's going to be true. So many people are refuting to it. They won't even give anybody the time of day. I'm like, when you don't have the era of conversation to explain these topics and truly enhance the topic or even talk about the conversation about it, you're not
Mhm.
giving any room or information processing to be able to understand each other's perspectives, which is kind of the main point of life, is understanding another person's perspective.
Right. And that's when speculation and the fighting and the arguing, the back and forth happens. Like it's just all speculative. Like look at Avi Loeb. And awesome news, by the way, that they got, was it secret funded by a billionaire? Is this the secret? This person, it's still a secret.
I'm not aware of that.
No, I was trying to read it up on this morning before I had my morning meeting because of COVID, we're all working from home. So I try to get my news in before I start my day. But he was even saying, and a great quote he was saying is, the sky isn't classified. It's like, we can look up, we can study it. Why aren't we doing it on our own? And then I was hearing him say that it's a few times actually. Number one, that he's really excited that younger people are getting into the topic. So great for our future generations. But number two, there's so many other scientists that don't even want to have the conversation. What hope do we have if there's the stigma still with the scientists that they can just have the tools and the minds to really dig into this, and they have the stigma on that as well. I'm just glad that program is starting at Harvard. So that's really good news, like really, really, really good news. So hopefully we can get some data soon, because I think we're kind of getting a little hungry after the big buffet that we had in not too long ago. We had Miraculous May. Everyone's getting all ramped up. The reports coming, and then Jeremy Corbell's coming in dropping bombs, even though there was controversial of like how he was doing it. But whatever. Who the hell are you to judge? He's out there, doing the ground boot work of getting things done and put together. So, but I'm guilty of that too. I used to rag on him, but no, hats off to him. He's pushing the agenda forward, right? As well as other people. But yeah, it's just, I think more and more the stigma has to go away. And I think in order for these conversations to happen openly, whether it's intellectuals, scientists, your neighbor, media, but I think we need more. And I know the data is there, but you have to dig into it. Not a lot of people are going to dig into it. Not a lot of people are going to be obsessed over it, making the connections, putting it together, being like, oh my God, something's there. Yeah, obviously we kind of look crazy. But if we have a little bit more data over a photo, or something's clear, or something that you can't really dispute, but it's not scary, like an alien or something, then maybe that will drive the agenda forward. And maybe people will just, stop puckering up their butts and just start talking about it. Stop being so scared. I don't know. I have very bad analogies, but it's like, just, I don't know why they're so scared, but Avi was saying they're scared about not getting grants with these scientists. They're scared about their peers not taking them seriously. So the biggest thing is, number one, we have to stop the stigma of it.
Well, I think as much as they might condition us or get us used to the idea of aliens through movies, they also get us conditioned to the idea of the people that also believe in aliens. And what those people show is the tinfoil hat, the whole thing of that. They don't do any
Yeah,
of them
I
in a
have my
good light.
crystals and I'm going to summon them with me,
Yeah.
it's like,
What
and I
about
know the
that app? The
CEI
app. What's
stuff.
the app?
Oh, yes, I know the CEI stuff.
Does it
Listen,
work?
okay, I was sitting down during the documentary. I'm into it. My claws are out. I'm like, yes, this is awesome. And I'm not gonna lie, as soon as Stephen Greer was like, and then we summon them, and I'm like, son of a bitch. I'm like, you had me. Now, how do I know the rest? Because this is out there. But again, it might just be a stigma of something that you could really do. But I don't know. It's really hard for me to know that he summons, he knows all.
It's a $10 app.
But he's hawking DVDs and freaking cooler mugs on his channel. So it's like, dude,
Okay.
you had it in early 2000s. What are you doing? I digress.
I'll have to send you his episode, but his name's John Schools. He's a podcast. It's called Connect the Dots. He'd probably love to speak with you too about this subject, but he was studying conspiracies for a while when he was first on. And then the second time I talked to him was a whole different John. The first time I was talking about like a lot of like conspiratorial stuff, like at this time it was about growing human organs in a monkey and all these types of things, which eventually we've been able to do now, which is like, okay, not so crazy anymore. It's kind of normalized. But when I was talking to him the second time he came on the show, he's like, Robbie, I've uncovered so much stuff about aliens. He's changed his whole format of show about the aliens. So it's, I mean, unloading, like I'm just sitting there with my mouth open, like, what? And
Congratulations.
he tells me
Yeah.
about the CE5 and tells me about summoning aliens and all these things. And I look at it like it's $10 is a lot for an app, but I want more information of, like, for instance, for you, what evidence or what things can you talk about that I can learn or I can look up, or something that might help sway me to the, I'm in the middle road here. I don't think that we're not without, but I also don't think we are within. I like to stay
Right.
middle. So I'm not just going, because if I, my whole show is being in the middle. So I'm not biased to one side. I don't have any
No,
dogs in any fights.
that's how you should be. That's very, very good. I don't I don't know. I think because my first reaction to it was so cringy, was so like, oh, was so disappointing, was so, because I never was presented with that thought or analogy before. It really kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna laugh that I never saw that. And I'm just gonna continue on my path, because that kind of makes it silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't ready or prepared for that. And so I keep dabbling in a little bit. Sorry about that. I keep dabbling in a little bit, but I get what the thing that I keep going back to is when I was watching the Unsolved Mysteries, and I watched a couple podcasts on the, and what other people are saying, the the, the Berkshire incident. Correct
Mm-hmm.
me if I, right.
Yorkshire.
So thank you. And they're saying, telepathically, don't get up, we'll just give a minute, you'll be fine. And when he was stuck, getting let down, and everyone else, and Travis Walton said he didn't get any messages. That's another thing going on right now. Holy crap. It's like a soap opera. I'm sitting in the corner eating popcorn. But anyways, because of so many other people are saying that they get messages, and the school children in the aerial school sighting, like they're getting messages. So there's obviously a telepathic, the way of they're communicating. Obviously they're on a high level. I don't know. I was in my hot tub the other day and I was looking up and I was like, I don't know. So I just kind of closed my eyes and I'm like, no, Kelly, just stop, just relax, get inside. Number one, if it is true, I don't want to summon shit. Okay. I don't want to see it. I don't want to summon anything. I don't want to wake up and have these things looking at me. Oh my God, no, I'm fine. I'm not ready yet. Okay. And number two, I'm just not there yet. It's just, I'm into the woo. I'm not into it's, I'm still woo wooing.
Yeah. I had a guy on here. His name is Michael. He has a podcast called Crudely Drawn Conclusions. And he worked on an oil ship out in the middle of the sea. And he talked about, like, yeah, I saw aliens once. And he starts explaining this alien thing. I'm like, why are you glossing it over like that? He goes, because everyone's gonna think I'm nuts if I keep going into this. So there's my nutty shit. Now it's out of the way. Let's get to the conversation. I'm like, go back to the thing. He goes, it was a common thing. At first, I was like, holy shit, what is that just floating there in the sky? And he goes, everyone goes, yeah, it happens a lot more than you think. And he talked about, like, through his year or whatever that he was there, that it happened more than once. And I've heard a guy from Alaska who's been on the show before, Anthony, and he talks about, being in Alaska, he would see something just go over the mountain thing. I don't know what it was. Was it government technology? The issue is like, I just want more of information out there when it comes to the fact of we don't have jack when you really look at it. I looked at that UAP report we got, 9 pages of what? One was like, in the table of contents was a page. And then on the first thing, in this page, we're going to teach you all about UAPs and what it means by, and they just explained what a UAP is. And I'm like, that's a page. What are you actually going to tell me is physical evidence of why are people that are flying planes talking about that they can see these little tic tac shapes and see these alien UFOs? And then some people that are flying in jets saying that the earth is flat. I'm so like, what is happening? Can I get a clear answer?
Everything is back asswards. Yeah, no. Well, with the report, because I know it was everyone's really upset about it. Obviously, like even Greenwald, and he does FOAs constantly, and he has a million documents on his website on the Black Vault. But he was disappointed, and then I listened to him again. He's like, when he said he looked through it again and saying, there's actually important stuff in there. They're acknowledging it. There was, 140 or 120 or 140 cases, and they only, could get,
But Neil deGrasse Tyson
one.
denounced it. Neil deGrasse Tyson was like, none of it says aliens
He's
in it.
well, that's the thing, right? So because I think we dive in a little bit deeper. So we're like, no, no, there is something there. But the thing is to get more people on, and this goes back to your original topic, is the more information that we kind of give out to people, that they can't just be a Midwest and be like, it's a bird, or they didn't say that. I think that the less stigma is gonna lift off, and it has, because there has been people that have, you know, joined UFO Twitter, and they've had their, part of my French, but their holy shit moment. There's something here, you know. Even Sam Harris is having these conversations. It's too bad that Neil is taking the road he is, because he is very influential, obviously not by us anymore, but most of the masses look to him like, you know, just like a Bill Nye the Science Guy. So it would have helped if he was on board saying, yeah, guys, guess what? Look at the cosmos. There is something there. You know, maybe that would lift that as well. So I think just the more we keep having these conversations, and hopefully they give us more information. And I hope Jeremy releases something else, because it's been so dry. That would help lift. But as of now, some days I am like you, like, okay, maybe there is something there, but maybe a lot of it's bullshit, to something's definitely there. And it's only a little bit of bullshit. And it's kind of hard to be like, this is 100% what it is, because fucking don't know. Like, we don't know. We need more data, more data. And everyone just goes through data and analytics differently.
Yeah, it's surprisingly the most information I've gotten about UFO or aliens or even some space anomalies, I'd say, have been from people from UFO Twitter. Compared to, I had a radio astronomer on here, and he told me, yeah, we've sent message. He's out in Africa in a lab down there. It was actually difficult to get a time down with him because he had to put his phone away in certain spots because they have to keep it in this room because it can affect some of the equipment. He talks about they sent multiple signals out there, never got anything back, but he's not too unsure about the fact that there might be something else out there. He's still kind of hopeful for it, but he doesn't think there is. And then I've talked to who's known as like the female Neil deGrasse Tyson of Lebanon. Dr. Srinemi came on here. She wants to come back on again to talk about specifically UFOs because she's uncovered some stuff. She's upset that America didn't release a lot of stuff. And I look at it like I'm so middle of the road right now where I'm like, I can go, if someone tells me a dinosaurs never existed, I go to a paleontologist and I talk to a paleontologist. Someone says the earth is flat, I talk to an astrophysicist, or I talk to someone who studies geology and says, no, it's not. But I can't get the alien thing. I can't get a certain, like, because, and I get it, because you hear Travis Walton, you hear his whole entire story on Joe Rogan, for instance. He has probably one of the most.
I do. I'm putting it out there. I totally believe that. Whether or not it happened as mine. I don't care. I believe 100% that that man, whatever happened, and if that happened, or if he passed out for, I think that happened to him.
So you want my excuse that you can use if someone says it didn't happen? Here's how you can prove it did. I say that the way he talks, a lot of people, like when I first listened to it, I was like, is he fucking making stuff up? But then when I listen to it again and again, I'm like, no, this is what your brain does when it's trying to describe something that you're trying to find something that would fit what we would be able to relate to, rather than something that's probably never happened before that your brain's trying to put into a category. Like, we don't know what if a certain element or something out there is until we've seen it, we discovered it, and it's been known to a lot of people. So you have no frame of reference to be able to describe it. That's why he's so picky party with his story, where I'm like, I don't think he's lying. I just think he's seen something, but he's trying to explain it in a way that everyone amongst the world or platform is going to be able to understand.
Even said, he goes, that color, that orange glowy color that was underneath the craft, he goes, I've never seen that color before. And he goes, I still never seen that color before. So that just goes to show, like, he's seeing stuff exactly what you said, that you can't say, well, the craft went down at 3 red lights, the red light came on me, boom, I was up. Like, there's a story. But when you're really going through after all this time and still saying, like, it was just this, can't really put my finger on it. This was kind of the closest description of this art rendition that I've seen that, you know, compares to it. Must be wild to see something so out of this world, and you can't even explain it 100%, because it's just so different from what we are used to.
You said out of this world. You could have said out of the blank.
I'm in marketing too.
Missed the show.
What's wrong with me?
Have you, for instance, like, what is your idea though of what they are? Like, for me, I think when it comes to like, I've heard the three lights in the sky and like the shape of a triangle, but as you would move, like if you're looking at my hand right now, you would move and it would move like this. Like you could see around it like a dimension. So it looks like if they conquered two. If you ever seen the Orville with Seth MacFarlane, his little Star Trek parody show, it's so good. It's on Hulu if you got it.
I never, I
It's like
never saw.
Family Guy, but Star Trek. So it's like, but it's real live. Like it's Seth MacFarlane's the captain. He plays Captain Kirk, but they somehow conquer 2D
I'm
space.
sorry. Hold on before you go down this
It's
this track. What is this show called?
called the Orville.
The Orville. All right. Okay.
It's on
I
Hulu.
got
But
Hulu.
he's he they conquered 2D space, but they're trying to find a way to get out of it. But even though in their ship is like how we are, where it's like we're able to move around, it's obviously 3D, but in the eyes on the outside, it's 2D flat. So it's like Chicken in the Little with the sky is falling, except with the plate that's like a dome thing. It's just that's them, but inside it's all 3D. It's all normal graph or normal dimensions. And we're looking into new dimensions now. So I go, is that a possibility that we're not really releasing the alien stuff, but we're releasing the idea that this could be something that eventually leads into the alien thing? We're trying to get into
Right.
another dimension. We realize there's another one out there. Now, what does that mean? Everyone has a
I,
different idea of what that is.
I think, yeah, multiple dimensions, which is wild. And it's so hard for us to even wrap our head around. We're not like astrophysicists or not going into string theory. I don't know. I watched The Big Bang. That's pretty, so going down all of that aspect, I have no idea. The one thing is with the triangles though, which I clearly have to study more on, is even in, I've never heard a story saying that, like even with Bob Lazar, he never, I don't believe you've ever said he's seen a triangle. It's all, we're always like bell or dish shapes or something, but I don't know if someone has housed a actual triangle. And I only started knowing about these black triangles from last year.
Well, maybe, well, Bob Lazar's story is from like 10, 15 years ago. So maybe they just updated their equipment.
Well, the 80s. You weren't born yet.
And I
I
was like,
can't
okay, maybe it was like more than 20, 30 years ago. But what I'm
a
saying is
very long time ago. Yeah.
we update our cars. We're now going like most cars are. There's now there wasn't electric gas pumps 2 years ago at
Right.
my gas station. Now there is. Maybe they just aliens updated their equipment. What I thought for a while, like people bring up Bigfoot, for instance. I like the cryptid stuff, but I look at Bigfoot. I'm like, imagine if it's like a bunch of aliens sitting in a spaceship and they look at Earth and they go, "What's the most common thing down there?" Well, they got monkeys down there that kind of the humans don't really notice. Okay, make a monkey suit, but they didn't give that much of a shit, so they just made a shitty suit and they drop down. And then that's what we see is whatever.
It's their disguises. They're like, well, I'm a bear.
Well, we knew there was Gigantopithecus, and everyone's like, maybe he's interdimensional, or maybe the aliens took him, or maybe it was a cover so they could walk around amongst us. Like people bring up the reptile eye things. Did you see my news thing I put up where the newscaster, their eyes, they blinked and it went a different like eye? It was like a CGI
No, I
eye.
didn't. Oh, no, I didn't. But they were saying that there's already aliens right now, hybrids that look just like us that walk among us.
Well, that I think is because they CGI the bags under your eyes, and then it sometimes makes fake eyes. But I'm like, you gotta. There's. I don't know if they're here. That's my thing. Is like, imagine. I picture all of them sitting, and I actually made a shirt upon this. It was my logo in a tank. But I imagine all of them like creating little substances or little like whatever spores or evolutionary things, and they dropped a little bit on each planet, and then every single like Mars, they're starting to notice it had water on it. Maybe we'll notice there's a civilization on it. Maybe there was something. It just they killed themselves or they went extinct. Maybe we're the last of the four that was dropped on all these different planets to see which one would survive. And we've made it this far. And maybe now they're starting to notice we're coming to another global reset. And they're trying their best to project, like people talk about, into our heads ways of not destroying ourselves. And I'm like, I don't know. And I like to think openly about this because that's also a good part about not having a lot of information is you can make these conclusions. It's just,
And speculations. And
yeah.
it, we're absolutely. I know, and it's even hard saying it out loud, but I do believe that number one, it's not up to us to disclose
Why is it hard? I've said it. I just
anything.
said it easy.
I know it's no, it was odd. Like it's what a lot of that is what I think internally. I do think that they are here. I think that it's we have no say of whether or not they come out or not. Like if we come out and say, look, these are these crafts, but ultimately if they want to be seen on the masses, it's up to them. Right. And I don't, and everyone's like, well, if they really wanted to be known, they could have just land down on the White House front lawn. Why don't they do that? Well, maybe there's another agenda that they're needing us to, yeah, maybe putting the stuff in to maybe fix the planet because we're kind of fucking it up. Maybe they're harvesting something to do with our energy, kind of like the Matrix style. And the reason why they're trying to not have us blow each other up because they need that energy from us. Right. So they're really trying their hardest to not have us, mess it up because we're doing a great job not preserving it. So I don't know, maybe they're just our cosmic babysitter. And right now they're like, hey, you guys are fucked. So either,
Yeah.
Get on the program or we're not gonna allow you to, habit this earth any longer because you're making a mess.
Why people always bring up the point, why would they want to interact with us? And I look at that like they have no reason to show themselves. We might be fascinating as people in our eyes, but maybe to them we're just chimps. We look at chimps like they're not intelligent at all. We look at dolphins like dolphins are super intelligent. There's a lot more things out
Hey,
there that
there's all had sex with people.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there's a lot more intelligent things than a dolphin is, but it's just close to what we would see as intelligence. There's a lot of animals out there that are very intelligent, way past dolphins, but
Yeah,
it's not to our level of intelligence. I look at like an
there's
alien.
yeah, there's stuff on Earth that I look and I'm like, holy shit, that looks like an alien. You see this octopus, there is going,
You think an
that's
octopus
an
is an
octopus.
alien? Please, come on. You're like the fifth person to tell me that.
No, it's if it's an octopus, if anything is going to be an alien in
Mm,
your like your typical Hollywood kind of alien thing, it's a friggin' octopus.
that's true.
The thing is just doing its thing and then it camouflages it's just wild how it looks.
I
And
talked to a
there
squid
is a lot of
biologist and we were talking about it and I brought this point up to her and I was like, I think it's just because there's still like 70 something percent of our oceans we haven't discovered. Like they found a dino fish that was 600 million years old in the fucking ocean that
yeah.
what is it off the coast of Africa? People are throwing dynamite in the water and exploded it out of its home. So this fish that they thought long was extinct. I just think I don't know. It's just that's a tough one too because that thing is freaking. You can't explain its physiology of that thing.
No, I'm just like there's so many species on the earth that we see and we're like, whoa, that's wild. But we're just so in our thing. We're so, you wake up, you do this. We have, I'm gonna be on the big screen and then I'm gonna reward myself with a smaller screen. Like we're constantly like just doing we're distracted in our own selfish, individual little bubble lives. That's really what it is. Like imagine if everyone just kind of snapped the fuck out of it and if the CE5 stuff really is a true thing, and imagine you can get a whole bunch of people to kind of sit back, open up their minds and be like, hey bitches, let us know what we need to do. That would be wonderful, but that ain't never going to happen. And even if they did come down and say, listen, this is what you need to do to save the world, there's going to be a half of the people deniers, the other half saying you're, oppressing my freedom. It's everyone's all divided. So I don't know. I think after the last 2 years, if the world hasn't come together over all this bullshit, I don't know, maybe a mass sighting would, but I have my doubts.
I don't know if it's people though. I think it's the industry that we live in. It's because I talked about even when the pandemic first started, when people are like, it's amazing, the world's becoming like this open and everyone's loving each other and caring about one another. I was like, give it 2 fucking weeks. I
Yeah,
have I've had a near-death experience. We all know what 9/11 was. That lasted a month or two. So I'm just saying it ends up we result back to our routines, our comfort of our everyday life. And sadly, the one that is set up in this world, everything is set up for you to kind of not really worry about your neighbor, but just worry about yourself because worrying about yourself right now is just struggling to survive. And then it's gotten even farther to where people want to police other people, where it's like, you can't even pay your fucking bills. Don't tell me to put on a fucking mask. And
yeah,
you got to look at the main, like, it's a lot of it's industrial stuff that's going on. And I look at that like that's the craziest thing because when I was a kid, the government was seen as this thing that was always going to protect you. There was this thing like troops, all this type of stuff. But then I look at it now where I'm like, you're fighting because they tell you that you're fighting for your family. which is part of it. But a lot of the shit that happened that people talk about, like, why are we over there? We don't have a need to be over there, because they also want to get their chess pieces across the board. You know what I mean? That's,
Not protecting the people at home.
yeah.
Help me first, like help me first. But there's always, me first, but everything just seems to be falling apart from the seams. And then it also seems like if anything of a higher enlightenment of there's other aspects in our galaxy, this is kind of a good time to maybe do the shift.
Well,
There
if the UFO word wasn't like, it's been drugged through the muck. So
they
when you say you,
changed it. They had to change it. That was a whole marketing campaign.
yeah.
UFO, oh, UFO. Or like, well, it's UAP now. Now it's not woo woo. It's like,
I like
okay,
the voice you do.
but it's true, right? They did a whole marketing campaign. Well, who did that? Who was the one who changed? I don't know. Like, I don't know if you know, or if
It
somebody
was
could put it in
Hillary.
the comments, but who changed it from UFO to UAP?
I'm pretty
Who
sure
made
it
that
was Hillary
decision?
Clinton.
Was it Hillary Clinton?
Yeah,
I
she
I
said,
know that she was on Jimmy Kimmel saying, "Oh, now it's not UFO, it's UAP," and that was the first time I heard that. But like, who made that decision? And the person who did make that decision, why did you want to remarket or rebrand what was going on? Because they know that we slowly are going to start releasing this, and they're just making the base of, well, it's the first step.
well, why would you go
The
from
things I think of it.
unidentified flying object to unidentified aerial phenomena? It's the same shit, just with the longer word.
Yeah, yeah. And phenomena, it kind of seems more like ghostly like, ooh, it's a
It's an
phenomenon.
umbrella of like supernatural shit.
Right. So, but they had, I don't know why. I would be interested if someone knew, or one of your listeners, knows who pulled the trigger on that. That would be, because I don't know. I could probably just Google it, but no.
Not gonna, not gonna. Uh, it's interesting to me because I think with the alien thing being kind of drugged through the muck a little bit, the way they change the names, all these types of things. Whenever you say like, "Hey, why don't you get interested in the alien subject?" Already people's eyes will start to roll. But then once you really start looking into it, you're looking through documents, and you're like, "What am I reading?" It's like, "What are you reading? Is there anything in there that tells you anything about anything?" No, it just seems like they're dancing around the question. Yes, focus on that. Why the hell are they dancing around something if it doesn't exist?
Yeah, I was just, I guess more and more people I see on, dancing around the topic and disinformation is that one, Mirage Med, I think it was in 2013 it came out. And it was about rich. I'm so bad with name. Like, this is why I can't debate UFOs. There's so much goddamn information
I'm
and
not
facts and
debating. I'm
science. No,
conversation.
but I mean, like, I generally like, so go on Twitter and be like, actually, this is what I think. Because there's so much stuff to, like, you have to have a whole library to like pull information up. And that's just too much. But in this documentary, I think it's Richard Dottie. And he was a disinformation agent. And he came out saying, I used to run things that were true, but then put lies on it, and really just disinformation to the public. And now people are saying that Lou is like that, which is not the fucking case. But he, it was just a whole big part of just creating that stigma and all those lies, but then sprinkling the truth through out there. So how do we know what's true and what's not? Because a lot of it's like, you can't wrap your head around it half the time.
That's why we still have flat earthers out there too. Which, I mean, I'm not a flat earther, but I understand their perspective because I've watched Middle Ground, which is a very good show. I think you'd like, it's on YouTube. It's
Mhm.
basically, so they bring up a topic. So there's like anti-vax or vax, and they get a bunch of people to talk about this: scientist, virologist, immunologist. Well, they had one that was flat earthers versus NASA scientists, and they had a discussion about it. The flat earthers' point was, when the first picture of the earth was taken, of the pano view where you get to see the full circumference of it, they also CGI'd clouds and other things to make it more appealing to put on a poster for people to consume rather than putting up the natural photos. So they go, if you
They do that
CGI'd,
now.
well, if you've CGI'd it once, you're lying to me. How am I going to know that you're not going to lie to me again? And sadly, even with the mask thing and the lab and all this stuff, you've lied once. You're not leaving any room for us to believe you the second time.
Right. I know what you're saying. I guess it's just so like preposterous because it's like,
Is that a dog in the background?
Did you hear a dog in the
I
background?
saw a giant shadow, and I'm hoping it wasn't like someone coming in to get you. It's like taken.
No, it's my pet. Yes, he just came over and laid down. So what I have is like a skylight, and I put it on the bottom here so it's reflecting up, and then a light. Yeah, so it's kind of like my office slash editing room slash
It
where I
looks
am
good.
all
It's like,
day.
it reminds me of Bo Burnham's special where he does all the lights and all that stuff.
That was amazing.
You
That was
saw
great.
he's getting an Emmy.
Good for
He
him.
got
Good for
nominated. I was
him.
like, thank God I watched that kid on YouTube when I was a child.
9/11, I was in college.
I remember singing the lyrics to my dad, and my dad's like, that's not funny.
Oh,
And Michael
that's
J. Fox has something wrong with his hands. I'm like, oh, so the scatter plot thing was actually a bad thing. I was 12. I didn't know.
I was 12. That's
God.
awesome. No, that's great. So what's next for you? What are your predictions in the next 6 months to a year with the UAP? Do you think Jeremy's going to release something soon? Because I saw him teasing him and George Knapp. We're at CNN. What are they going to be doing? I don't know if they're going to release something exclusively with CNN. Maybe, let's speculate. But unless we get that one tweet that it's going to be at high noon, who knows? Um,
I
do you
don't
think we're going to get more data, more drops?
I don't know. Um maybe in the next month we might get something, but I don't think it's going to be anything for a while because I think the main focus is right now, especially what I'm getting involved with, is a lot with the CCP, the Chinese government.
Mm,
It's getting kind of scary. I mean, we had one of the sanctions that we put on them actually work, and now they've cut off all businesses with a lot of other places besides us. Like they're just upset by the whole thing because now they have a roadblock, and we found a way to work into there, which is a good thing. But
mm.
it's gonna end up like I hear planes sometimes over my house. I'm like, is it Red Dawn? Like I'm not 100% into that idea, but I look at it like it's going to get very shaky in the next year and a half when it comes to our military, that I feel like a lot of people aren't going to have time to focus on the UFO thing. And that's the biggest thing, is like when you dropped during the pandemic that there was going to be aliens or UFOs or whatever, nobody gave a shit. You think they're going to care when China's over here? Nobody's
But
going to care.
I know, because they're in their bubble, but once they're in, like once that 60 minutes kind of came out, people are like, oh, okay, I get it. And like in the New York Times, and more people are talking about it. It's not shifting a shit ton of people, but it's starting to shift. And this is the first time that people are really, paying attention. This is the first time my mom's like, hey, I saw something about those UFO things on the news, eh? And I'm like,
Hey,
okay, well, at least someone's seeing something. The one thing that, because we're so selfish and I'm selfish and I need, with this stuff, because we want to know. And I think it's deep seated within ourselves about, the something else out there, is that we're, there's more to life than just looking again from one screen to another and driving a car and whatever you do. There is something bigger out there. And I think it draws a lot of us into it because sounds silly, but we're kind of born with it. We're all made of stardust. There's something maybe that's driving us to this, because there's a lot of us that have a very, very weird obsession over it, to the point that we're like, you know what, maybe I need to take a break. And because of all that, and the whole obsession is, when Jeremy Knapp is like, hey, I have a lot and I'm just getting started. I'm going to drop something as soon as the report drops. I'm going to be dropping this. Oh, guess what? Tease, 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 tease. It's like, you know what? I'm sick of teases. I'm sick of
it's
these little
marketing.
drops. This is exact. I know it's marketing, and I know it gets people like, ooh, more eyes on it. I totally understand the strategy behind it. But selfishly, as a person, it's like, give me what you have, fucking drop it, and everyone's now commenting, oh, it's a little quiet, it's a little quiet. I think there's a lot of huge things that are happening on a larger scale as opposed to these little drops. But just give us something a little bit, just
Yeah.
throw a little piece over, just, put it more together. Because I heard Lou, I think it was in the Jimmy Church podcast, he referred to those triangles as, he was saying something about like, flashing, airplanes flashing their lights over, like some of the videos that were shown. Don't quote me exactly, but it was something like that. I have a terrible memory. But I thought that was interesting.
What can we do to incentivize people to just not worry about the money aspect of holding this information and slowly releasing it to only paid subscriptions? What do you think is the best way to incentivize them to just be open about the information, like a Snowden type leak where we can just have it? Because they've released a lot of that CIA documents about the UFO stuff on the Black Vault. And a lot of it was like, yeah, release it on a like, no offense to the guy. I'm sure he's nice and amazing, but that's not what I wanted on. I wanted to see a government website telling me all this stuff, not a black vault where I clicked on it. I was like, this looks like it was made by a nut job.
Mm, mm. Oh, like the website itself.
Because I had to scroll
Well,
down. I'm like,
what
this
I
should be
think
a
it's
main
the
thing.
slow groom, it's the drip, right? It's the drip. It's the slow. We'll just give him a little, but we need a little bit more. Um, and you know that we can't just release everything because it's just going to get swept aside. We have to build it up with the media, and it's like, okay, I know the momentum's happening behind the scenes, but what's happening? Are we going to have public hearings about it? Is that coming? I think that should be coming. I know there's another documentary J.J. Abrams doing with Showtime that's coming out August 8th. That looks awesome. Some people are pissed that they have CGI UFOs in there, and other people are happy that at least there is something out there. But is that going to put more woo onto it? Like, I don't fucking know.
I don't want to see it
I
on a
don't
streaming
know.
service. I want to see it on a news place. I want to see it on the thing where it's going to be on regular television, not some, if you have to own Hulu, even when they have like the Skinwalker Ranch stuff, it's on fucking Hulu. Like, can I see this on an actual thing where it's like, okay, if I don't give a, I'm not a fan of Fox, I'm not a fan of CNN, but I want to see it on regular TV where
Yeah,
it's not some
you
type of
want it
movie show.
accessible to the masses. If this topic is important, as we all think it is, and as it is, it's the biggest story ever in human history. Yeah, don't gate it. I understand that these people that are constantly working and working as you do, of looking for the information, recording, doing audio, doing transcripts, talking to people behind the scenes, verifying information. That is a lot of friggin' work. And I understand people need to make a living. Absolutely. Buy the merch, subscribe to a channel that, that disseminates the information or breaks it down for you. So it's a little bit more to digest. But when it comes to really big bombshells, just, yeah, I agree with you, just let it go out in the masses, and there should be a 24-hour news cycle,
Or if you're
that's
going to
streaming
release a
it like a
documentary
one-stop
about it,
shop. And you know what, maybe all those people that are doing the research now, fucking pay them and have one person just disseminating everything out to the masses.
if you're gonna
Throw
make a documentary and you're gonna put it on Hulu, I don't like it being on the same platform that I can find the fucking Incredibles. That's all I'm asking? Is
I'm
that can
trying to. I'm in Canada and I'm trying to watch the Roswell series and it's on Discovery Plus. I can't. It's not even available to me. I try to rip it off on my Raspberry Pi, but it shows me it, but I can't access
I don't want to
any
see that
details.
the UFO stuff on Hulu. I want to see it on regular TV. I also want to see the Manson murders on TV. There's a guy hopefully going to make Amazon was supposed to make a series out of it about how the government was drugging Charles Manson. Tom O'Neill spent 15 years of his life researching and writing a book about it. That turns out he
I read that one on. I watched that one on Joe Rogan. Yeah, his whole the whole book.
Operation Midnight Climax
Yes, and he lost a lot of money. He didn't make a lot of money from that.
got
His
sued.
whole life was like a huge struggle because of that. That's insane. Yeah, that's wild. Not a lot of people know. And again, it goes way back into like what the FBI, apparently they don't do that anymore. Sure, but apparently they weren't looking into unidentified flying objects in the sky either, but you don't know. Like,
I
it's
just
just wild.
I tell people like my distrust for the government is with good reason, mostly because I studied all the articles and all the projects they've done in the past. And I'm like, eh, coming from a person that likes power, I mean, I can tell you I have a huge ego, but I also keep it in check. This is exactly where it goes. Bill Gates doesn't donate out of the kindness of his heart. He donates to try and get a Nobel Peace Prize, which he befriended the people that run the committee to be able to do so by making like taking them out and stuff. And also, a charity that saves cancer in his name. It's about getting it in your name. So when people hear Bill Gates charity of cancer research, that makes you look like a good fucking person. His
And
wife has came out talking about it.
didn't uh didn't he just buy up, like he owns the largest
He owns everything.
percentage of farmland
He tried
in
to
the
launch a missile into the sun to dim it. so he could dissipate particles to dim the sun to block UV rays or whatever. That's a fucking James Bond villain that would do something
No,
like that. Yes, look that up.
I never even clicked on it because I'm like clickbait. I'm like, no. Meanwhile, I go into freaking aliens, but I was like, no, no, no,
And
that's bullshit.
there's photos of him and Epstein together too. His wife is the one that released all that shit.
Isn't
That's what
that
happens. You pissed off your wife. You got a divorce with her, and then she released all your dirty laundry.
Jesus?
I
Yeah,
love it. I love it. I want to see Neil deGrasse Tyson shit. I want to see Oprah shit too. I bet Stedman's like, I'm gonna fucking ruin you. I
Jesus Christ.
want it all.
I want it all. Just give it to me. Yeah, it is crazy how crazy we can get down into these rabbit holes. But I'm telling you, they need to start releasing something like that we can all agree on saying, okay, that's something. That's all I want. My birthday, by the way, is this Friday on the 30th. Yes, this Friday. So that would be a great birthday gift. Release some footage, make me happy. I don't know.
Imagine if they
Yeah.
just gave you all of the information, but you couldn't
Yeah,
share it to the
yeah,
world.
yeah. Me that can't even remember her postal code. Yeah, no, that ain't gonna happen.
Can't remember your postal code. It took me forever to remember my social security.
No, I have that's locked in. Yeah, that's very, very much locked in.
I
But
got it
yeah,
saved in my phone.
yeah, don't do that.
What are you gonna
Don't
steal my identity? Good fucking luck trying to be. You can make what my life successful. Congratulations.
Yeah, exactly. Go have at it. Do what you may. You can't mess it up more than I did.
Well, Kelly, look, I'm gonna have you back on for sure because this has been. I'm gonna have to look up more topics though on the alien thing because I'm still a newbie when it comes to. Um,
Hey, listen, well, that's the thing, and me too. And unless I have like a whole array of thing of like, oh yeah, and this point, and that you need a whole diagram board, and there's so much information, and especially when you're not doing it full time, but just trying to keep up, it is hard to disseminate and make the connection. So try my best, try to figure it out, right? So
where can people find you and your content? And like I said, I'm going to have you back on. I just got to find more alien stuff to be able to look into because I don't specifically focus or do my own research on this. I just talk to people who get me in the right direction. And then I look up some of the stuff. My cousin made a site on it, but he's been spending like $5,000 trying to promote his site where he has all the links to all the files and all the shit for people to find himself. Good for him. I'm more on the lines of like, I'm just trying to make sure I can get up out of bed and not hate my life.
yeah, that hit home. Yeah, that hit home. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, like I love talking about it and you get different perspectives for sure. But I you can just find me on Twitter. It's my name is Kelly Lee Dodge, Dodge like the truck. And my Twitter handle, I'm really bad at this, is at the video girl. So that's me. So
Is there
yeah,
anything you want to end on to anybody listening?
just keep talking, you know. Oh, don't be no, here's my thing. Okay. We're gonna keep it positive. Don't be a dick. Okay. Just don't be a dick online. That's all. We're all here on UFO Twitter trying to figure this out. We're all passionate. We all feel connected with each other because we all love this and we feel connected to this topic so much. And we all are, drooling at the mouth because we want to know so much. Stop with the like the chickens on the view clucking back and forth. Like it is fun to have a really good healthy debate, but just don't be a friggin' see you next Tuesday about it. That's all. Life's already hard enough, and just adding more of that is just shitty. That's all.
Well, that's been an episode of Out of the Blank. Stay tuned for next episode.